Don in London. Hello. March 31st, 2013. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. So my name is Don and I'm an alcoholic. My substance of addiction was alcohol. And one day at a time, for some time, I've been sober and learning how to stay sober with the help of many people and not professional people. Professional people got me dry, to be a dry drunk, and then they said, well, actually we can't help you on a long-term basis because it's too expensive and you can't afford it, and the best we can do is give you once a week or once a month as some sort of analysis, I guess. So they suggested I go to a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. So I am in the fellowship of AA. I don't speak for the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, because if you're in it, you know I cannot speak for you. You speak for yourself and share your experience, strength and hope where you choose to do so. And that's all right. It's absolutely right, because some of us, or many, although we've been outed as alcoholics in recovery, many do not wish to be outed as alcoholics in recovery, because there is still some stigma wherever they are about being an alcoholic in recovery, or simply being an alcoholic. Indeed, it's punishable by death in some countries, against the law in some countries, and generally people see us as derelicts if we've got into a state where we can't stop being addicted to whatever it is, the substance or the behaviour. And people look down on us, and then are very surprised when we come back to life and start being an ordinary citizen again. In fact, probably an improved citizen, because we learn a few things which are very good for us, like how to tell the truth, how to be open, how to be honest, and how to be willing to live life all over again. All those things happen in recovery and are possible, but there's an awful lot in the way, usually, of success on a one-day basis. And that's, number one, ourselves, because we can fall backwards as easily as we can strive forwards. So it's very easy to find ourselves having to start over and over again in early days, trying to be in recovery from addiction. And we do it one day at a time. So I don't speak for AA, but I share how it works, or how it's working for me. And I don't speak for other people. And then there are no leaders as such within the fellowship. We are all trusted servants doing what we can when we're within the fellowship. But this is outside fellowship, and it's just how sobriety works for me. And if I didn't mention AA, or the fact that all my experience, strength and hope of how to be sober is mainly from the fellowship, I would be misrepresenting myself as some sort of guru or teacher, and I'm not either one of those things. I'm just another person in recovery, and it's always going to be the very many voices of experience, strength and hope we hear which keep us on path. And it can be done in fellowship, meetings and groups, and more broadly with social networks these days. I still prefer face-to-face whenever I can get out and do just that, because it works better that way for me. But I share here because I was asked and answered. So I share what AA is from this little card, which has got the AA preamble on it. Can't see it too well. And then my own reflections from today. So, what is AA? You'll hear this at the beginning of every meeting, and I hear it at the beginning of every meeting I go to. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's all it is. Only requirement for membership, a desire to stop drinking. And even some of us didn't have that when we first turned up. And you don't have to be sober to turn up. You can just turn up and hopefully maybe just get a recollection of it. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so you don't have to pay anything. but we are self-supporting through our own contributions. So those of us who've got a few pennies to spare and share, we put in the hat to help pay for rent, tea, coffee, biscuits and literature. Now, AA doesn't belong to anything or anyone, so it's not allied with anything or anyone, least of all me. So this is how it reads. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. And where people get confused about what is fellowship, it's because of this very fact, that every single person in AA belongs to something or other, somewhere, even if it's just, I don't know what it is. So, you as a human being can be allied with any sect, denomination, political organisation, any organisation or institution. You may wish to engage in controversy, and you may endorse or oppose causes. And you'll hear all about all those things that people do. And where people make a mistake is, if that's what they're like, I don't want to be a part of that. Well, the answer is, don't join in with people who are not of the same beliefs or opinions, because everybody goes to AA regardless. And this is where the mistake happens. If you join in with a particular set of people within the fellowship who have beliefs and opinions you don't like, you've either done it because there is nobody else you can see, or you have the same opinions of them and then you fall out with them. So it's better to go to many meetings, many groups as you possibly can, which might be difficult depending on where you are. But there is one thing that you need to remember. The fellowship is not allied to anything. But you can be, and you'll find that all the people around you are, in different religions, different sects, different ideas, different institutions, different organisations. And they won't necessarily believe in all the things that you believe. And I found that to be true. I live in London, UK. We have the most diverse population you can possibly imagine, of all beliefs and persuasions. So, our primary purpose must be, or is, there are no musts in life, but our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So on an individual basis, stay sober and help others. And I had criticism in the last couple of days about AA is for losers, AA is for people who have got no freedom anymore, AA takes away your freedom. Well, it doesn't. Only you can take your freedom away. And normally we do that by being enslaved to alcohol. And now we're not. So what are we going to do? I didn't know what to do. I kept on going to meetings and they said, you feel better after a while. And I did. And I didn't understand why I should feel better, because I'd taken away the main prop, which was oblivion using alcohol as a way of self-medicating, then self-harm, and then suicidal, because it was killing me and I knew it, but I couldn't stop. So, my thoughts and feelings this morning, or rather my feelings and thoughts for March 31st, 2013, Easter Sunday. And I'm quoting here, we're going to know a new freedom, and that comes from the AA promises. I wish they hadn't made them promises, because the new freedom is the new freedom we feel and have is contingent on what we do ourselves. So if I'm not the higher power, where does my freedom come from? The new freedom for me is freedom from extremes of fear, freedom from pride and ego. Letting go of fear, pride and ego opens the door. It opens the door to ask for help when I don't know the answer, courage to change when I need to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and growing confidence that I can live with greater freedom of choice one day at a time. So, fellowship is about freedom of choice, freedom from slavery. And so I put it like this. First 6 steps of AA, freedom from the slavery of addiction, an old repetitive life, having to be right and look right, old behaviour which was a liability, hiding who I am from other people because the new person, freedom from having to hide from who I used to be, and the new person is much improved. So, old feelings of inadequacy, those were the things I've got freedom from. So what are my new freedoms? To start life over. Sorry, I've got something in my eye. Freedom, my new freedoms, to start life over at any time, to identify and be willing to make amends, make the amends without doing any further harm and without reservation, to take time out to improve and have gratitude, to look at what I do and how I'm doing it, and be grateful I can ask for help if I'm having a particular problem, to reflect and meditate and ask for help when needed and seek clarity, to let go of the old way of life, continue to develop a new life and share how when asked, and keep on learning better principles of living one day at a time. These are the steps in action, progress not perfect, and we can always start again, whatever happens. So, you know, it's Easter Sunday, so I thought I'd be positive. Even when other people would prefer it, that AA was a place of abject misery. It's not. It's a place full of laughter. We are not a glum lot. And when people don't want to be part of AA, good. They're making a free choice. But I hope they stay sober as well. That is my hope. And, you know, leaving the fellowship, if you're sober and you're happy, what can be better? I've found it's good to be in touch with people who know how to be sober and keep sober, but that's just me. I don't suggest it for you. I can't. It's freedom to choose. And if you've got a sober head and you're not mad as hell about anything, the problem is sometimes people blame the fellowship, or people in the fellowship, quite rightly, are culpable for being a bit misleading with their own interpretation of what AA is, because they're not the leaders and I'm not the leader. We are but trusted servants. So if anybody's telling you what to do in fellowship, it's probably time to actually look at the steps and remind yourself that it's about freedom from other people telling you what to do, especially those so-called sponsors who think they know better than you about your own life. So there are people around who are unintentionally malicious because they think it has to be their way or the highway. So there are no leaders. God is not amongst us as a single person, but the power greater than me is always the many voices in recovery, the good, bad and the ugly in recovery, because I need the good, bad and ugly in recovery to see the difference on a daily basis. And I want you to be robust as a human being and be free. So Easter Sunday starts with a bright blue sky here in London. Yippee! You know, it's been awful weather and we've still got an Arctic wind blowing from the east. It would be from the east, wouldn't it? Easter Sunday starts with a bright blue sky, and yet the news in the UK is all about lies, damn lies and statistics from the government. This is an illustration and just an opinion. But my illustration is this: lies, damn lies and statistics from the government. So according to 4 of the main churches in the UK, the economic difficulties in the UK are not caused by the poor. And these religious organisations, as well as secular organisations, also suggest that the UK media is spreading lies which the government is responsible for. Although it sits well with the government to criticise the poor for being a drain on the well-being of those in work, it seems that the poorest in work are those who really need the support that the government wishes to take away, as well as the unfortunates who cannot get a job and are excluded from employment. So according to the UK government, it's the poor in this country who are at fault and draining away all the money. But if you actually look at these statistics, 95% of the wealth in this country is owned by about 10% of the population. So if you're draining anybody's money, apart from the stuff they keep on printing, it would be from the rich, who feel like their richness is being squeezed in some way or other. Maybe they just haven't got enough poor people to look down on. Anyway, although it sits well with the UK government to criticise the poor, it's not really right, is it? And it sits well for them to do it. I mention this in passing because I feel the anger and misrepresentations of large numbers of the UK population, because it's making our society more polarised and conflicted. You get trying to set the poor against the poor, when it's the rich politicians these days. Well, whenever was it ever any different? Except this lot think they have a right as the government to criticise people who are being excluded from society by them. Anyway, ruining the reputation of poor people is no way to improve the economic situation. This is my opinion. Making people self-prejudiced and stigmatised causes horror and grief, and ultimately, for those who don't top themselves, rebellion. Because they'll remember what you did, and there are some very unpleasant poor people who will take it upon themselves to do something about it. The reason I say this is because the more people are stigmatised, the more they identify with their stigma and the prejudice against them. As ugly can be, especially on this particular religious festival for many millions around the world. And it is ugly to categorise people who are striving to stay alive, having to go to food banks, having to ask for help, when they didn't make it so. The poor didn't make it like this, did they? And that stigma and self-prejudice leads into worse harm, self-harm, because what am I striving for if all I ever get is told I'm not worth it? And this is why recovery is important to me. What makes the difference in recovery? I don't know the answer for you, and it would be a presumption if I did know the answer for you. And the reason why I am still alive is because people came together in fellowship and found a solution how to restart life. So, learning how to restart life is most important, as much on an individual basis as it is for a country. Now, I can't say anything about the government because I don't see it through their eyes, do I? I do see the havoc and chaos they are creating. I actually saw, a representative of the church almost in white rage this morning on the television because his congregation, in the main, is being made to feel inferior because there are no jobs to be had, and that's not their fault. And they're not mobile because they're not allowed to be mobile. Anyway, so the 12 steps work if we can work at them, and all we need is the right encouragement. So we need some more mobility and a bit more scratch to make things go round better. We don't need to be pushed into anything. This is for recovery. We don't need to be pushed into anything. We cannot be pushed into sobriety. All it takes is awareness and hopefully a desire to be sober for a day. The more I was told what to do with my life, the more I rebelled against it, partly in the beginning because I had no real clue what was going on, other than sign this bit of paper and you're in the Navy for 7 years. And this is when I was about 14, and fortunately my father said, no you're not, because I was willing to stick my thumbprint or my X against the King's or Queen's shilling. Either that or be a baggage handler at an airport was the main careers advice from the particular school I was at. Anyway, then he took me off to a grammar school. I was unhappy, but I did get an education. See, things happen. I have to thank him for that. That's my dad. Anyway, the more I was told what to do with my life, the more I rebelled against it. My father made certain I was rebellious, partly in the beginning because I had no real clue what was going on, and then as life went along I rebelled because life just seemed to be an unending journey of misery for most people, without the basic ingredient that every human needs. And that need is love. We all need a bit of love. We have songs written about it, poems, TV shows, you name it. It's all about love. Yet we are hopeless at expressing it, without it all getting mixed into other stuff as well. We don't know how to. There's no education about how to love. Well, we don't come with an instruction book, I hear somebody shouting out. That's true. Anyway, coming back to experience, strength and hope. To be redeemed and to share how to restart life. This is what happens in fellowship. Even though we had become derelict, that by finding fellowship with unity and recovery at the core, and helping each other without conditions, is a profound awakening. So Easter Sunday, I'm reminded of the profound awakening I had, was that people cared enough to keep me alive enough, to find enough sobriety for a day. And it didn't kill me, and I didn't feel resentful. I was just shocked that anybody would care. And especially today, although I'm not a religious person, and I guess you know that by now, I am not a religious person, the spiritual awakening any human can have is to be able to cope and live the reality of now. Now, an archbishop said that. So don't discount anyone with a belief in God or their own particular religion, because it will have 990% good in it, and then is misinterpreted by 1% who give it a bad name usually. That's the way I see it. 99.999% good, and the 0.001% bad influence, which is man-made, gives all religions a bit of a hard time. And that applies to fellowship as well. You know, those who are believers. What would we do without you? I don't know. Well, I certainly wouldn't be alive, that's for sure, to have my not particularly religious outlook. So we all need each other, regardless of where we're coming from. And that's about unity. So I'm not a religious person. The best spiritual awakening any human can have is to be able to cope and live in the reality of now. And when we cannot cope, we can ask for help. That's what fellowship gave me. The experience, strength and hope of the many helping one person find their way back from hell. To be able to find useful endeavours which suit each of us, and then we can find happiness in new endeavours, is, in my opinion, miraculous. It is. It's an absolute blinking miracle that any of us get back to sober. And we're not imprisoned. We're free. This is the good news, and we can keep on changing to the good, keep on finding where the bad and ugly bits are, and hopefully let go of them, repeating the bad and ugly bits too often, that is. Freedom to choose, freedom to strive for what is important to you, and not to be enslaved or a martyr to other people's causes and conflicts today. No man in their right mind will go to war, but governments do, and leaders do. And if they want to, they ought to be on the front line, but that's just a personal opinion. I feel very grateful to be alive and to be able to see the possibilities in life, and to have choices. Even when life is difficult, we can develop the freedom to find a new path. To other people, our endeavour may not seem glamorous, and that does not matter. What matters is the quality of our emotional and spiritual living. And as I put it, living and experiencing our feelings in the moment of now, which informs us about what is right and wrong for each of us. In the moment, and when we find ourselves going in the wrong direction, we can take action to change. All we need is courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and confidence to be the person we are, and happy to be so just for today. And when we cannot be the person we wish to be, we can make plans, not to trip ourselves up, simply to make plans towards more freedom of choice, and be active in making those choices and not stuck in the old life again. And, you know, what really, I suppose I find upsetting sometimes, I don't mind being criticised, it's fine, but to the self-prejudice required in order to criticise me in some ways is terrible. It's terrible, because it's saying the only way you have a free life is by living alone, I guess, and not finding what I found, which is how to live life with freedom, to have courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, building my confidence. I don't need to know the answers, certainly not for you as a human being. I don't know the answers for you. To be able to have expression, freedom of expression, outside of fellowship and inside of fellowship, and that's sacrosanct. Anonymity, for those who are clear on what that's about. Anonymity, so you can find out the truth of who you are, is sacrosanct as far as I can make out. And there's nothing hidden. For those who are looking for the hidden AA, I thought there must be one. There must be some way out of this hell. That's what I thought at the beginning. And I just didn't sit there and think, oh well, I've got to follow them. I asked them and I challenged them, and they supported me in my challenges. I said, listen, you've got to go your own way. You've got to have your freedom to be yourself and be happy. We can't make you happy, but we can show you how, and that's what the 12 steps do. They're not aligned to anything. Well, maybe they are. Truth, love and wisdom a day at a time. But that's just a personal interpretation. You can interpret them as you like. And if they are imprisoning you, they certainly aren't intended to work that way. And if you find people imprisoning you in their opinions and beliefs, there's something wrong with the way your bit of fellowship is working, or the way you see it, or the way you are undermined by other people imposing their views and opinions on you. AA is not there for that. It's there to free you to can do, can't do, and wisdom to know the difference, as is the Serenity Prayer. I don't want to be beholding to anyone. I do love people, and some people love me back, without conditions. Why else be involved? It is an anarchic democracy. Just because either you haven't got an identity to stamp on it, or you don't like the identity of the person stamping theirs on you, is no reason to give up on the 12 steps. To be part of life again, included, loved, friendly, whatever you call it, however it works for you. You don't have to get any closer than you feel comfortable with anybody in life, wherever they are. You still have your freedom to be yourself, or in my case, find out who I am, just for a day. And that's it, yes. So just for today, the Serenity Prayer, which can restore me to sanity when there's chaos around me, to God or in good conscience, God, or in good conscience to truth, love and wisdom of the universe, which I'm learning every day, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. On Easter Sunday 2013, and on any other given day, just for a day. Oh, happy Easter for those celebrating, and happy Sunday for those just having a good Sunday.